I'm Helya and I'm from Ventura, California. Fitness found me somewhat late, I would say. I feel that in the US, everyone's kids are in some sort of soccer or dance or something at a very young age. My parents were, I was moving around a lot the first 10 years of my life, and so fitness never really found me until my grandfather picked up a racket and he played tennis a lot. And to this day, he takes credit for everything I've ever done. And so he taught me how to play tennis. And I played tennis, started at age, I think 13, 14. I played all throughout high school, then went into triathlons when I got into college. You know, I gained the freshman 15, and then I said, uh-oh, I should probably do something. And I'm a pretty intense person, so triathlon just made so much sense. So went into triathlons, and I realized afterwards that I had absolutely no time to actually do triathlons when I got a real job, like a big girl. And I found high intensity training, and then I kind of incorporated it more and more into my life. Next thing I know, I was getting certifications, and from then the studio happened. And at that, then my community happened. It's been a whirlwind. It's been 5 years of me actually being in the training side of like a coach. But it's been such an incredible experience so far. Where does my intensity come from? Man, my mother. I think my mother is just as intense as I am. And she was always hard on me when it came to doing the best that I could. And she grew up in Iran, and she always told me, do well in school, because here there's so much opportunity. And I mean in all ways, from, I guess when she was telling me, she didn't necessarily have like a direction that she was saying, do well because you'll get here. She was saying, do well because you never know what the opportunities are in front of you. And because of that, and my dad was always a cheerleader. No matter what, I quit my job, and I called my dad and I said, Dad, I quit my job to open a gym. And he goes, all right, sounds good. That's not necessarily something that you would hear from a father, but I heard it from my father. And that encouragement and the power that they gave me truly forces me to look outside of the box and say, okay, well, what can I do here? And I never just wanted to take a job. I wanted to take a job and go to the top. So I kind of did the same with fitness. My intensity is, I want to get to the next place because it feels good to be there. And it doesn't mean that I'm not appreciative of where I am. It means appreciating how far I've come and seeing how much more I can do and go. The studio now is focused on 3 pillars. It's focused on intensity, strength, and mobility. When we first started, I had a business partner, and she was more from the big gyms. So she had a lot more aerobics and Zumba, and I'm certified in Zumba. That was a fun class to teach. I only taught one. And she kind of brought this whole other side to fitness to me, and I appreciated it, but I felt myself growing out of it very quickly. I wasn't quite CrossFit, but I wasn't not. And I wasn't quite the 24-hour style or just the big gym style fitness. And what I found was it was because I wanted more. I wanted 3 things. I've narrowed it down, and I found that I wanted the intensity because I felt like that's what gave me spark. It's what gave me results in a lot of ways, physically, emotionally. And I wanted strength because I wanted to be able to compete at CrossFit level if I wanted to. I wanted to be strong enough. I didn't need to be the strongest, but I wanted to be able to push weight if I wanted to. And the mobility piece is so normal to me. It feels like if your muscles aren't capable of moving in the right ways, how can your skeletal system hold you up properly? I used to have really bad scoliosis, And I think the reason why I gravitated towards all three of those things is because after I picked up fitness, my scoliosis disappeared. It was because my muscles literally went to where they needed to go. My posture got better. My head sat on my shoulders the way that felt more and more natural. But it was because I strengthened the muscles around the bones. Bones don't move. Muscles move bones. So if you move the way that you're supposed to, it doesn't necessarily mean moving the way that's comfortable at first, but retraining old behaviors is kind of where I started and kind of where I've evolved to now. And now I'm bringing in everybody in the community to have that picture as well, understanding that you need three things to be a complete, fit, healthy person. I feel that my training is sometimes difficult to measure. How I compare to other people, I'm not really into comparing. It's really not what I encourage at the studio. But I do ask you to be competitive with yourself a lot. And I feel that that's something that has always been a part of my practice. And the reason why I feel that these three aspects are important is because it makes you stronger as an entire person. And I feel that the opportunity that I had to really show how much my training has helped me was when I first moved to Ventura. Before I kind of found my place in the fitness world, I joined a CrossFit gym for about 6 months. And I really didn't do well. I have this sense of, I did okay, but I never saw myself really going to that place where I was really good and people looked to me as admirable or really strong or any of those things. I never felt like I could be that expert in it. So when I started training on my own, a lot of my friends and coaches would do both. They'd come to my studio and then I would train with them every once in a while. And I kind of always had this insecurity about being able to perform. So I had these insecurities about going back to a CrossFit gym. I felt like it was not my place. And one of my coaches asked me to compete with him as like a duo partnership in a big competition. And we killed it. We did so well. We got second place. It was this high that I was like, oh my God, this is so fun. I'm right. All this other training still transfers and I can do whatever. It's just a matter of, it was like justifying all of this mumbo jumbo that you feel like you're talking to yourself. You know what I mean? It made sense and it felt good and it was fun. So I feel that in itself was a big pat on the back, like, what you're doing is okay, continue. What happens to me when I don't work out? Ugh. You should ask my husband that. I am grumpy. I find that I eat worse. I find that I shame myself sometimes. And then I have to put it into perspective a lot. Just because you don't work out for a couple of days or even months doesn't mean that you lose it all or you're all of a sudden an unhealthy person. It just means that your body needs a rest. And maybe it just means you're in the middle of a recovery. And I talk about this a lot because sometimes I'm just too tired to do another one. And rest is really important. Rest is something I consider just as important as working out every day. If you don't rest, you can't recoup and your body will just go the other way. A lot of times it will fail you because you're not capable of repeating or being better than you were if you don't give your body rest. Rest is like gas for your car in a lot of ways. Eventually, you need to take a break. If I could remind myself that, I do it, but also I find that the way I work out, I don't really exert too much every day. I don't go to my full capacity necessarily all the time. I might go to about 50, 60%, and then 1 or 2 days a week, I hit it really hard, and I let myself recover. So in reality, I'm working out for about an hour or two a week, let's say, because my workouts aren't necessarily that long. But it's different because I also teach classes. So I'm always moving, and I can't really put into words how much I work out. But I will say that movement is so important to me that even sitting and just holding myself in one position, meditating, sometimes is difficult because I need to move through it. That is my personal challenge, meditation. And it's difficult for me because I can't stop moving. How do I work with my injuries? I try not to get them, which is really silly, but it's true. And then I rest when I have any warning signs. So if I feel something, or I think my biggest injury was when I tore my ACL. It was a while ago. I had surgery. I was, in high school. So I recouped in like 4 months. I was running again. It was ridiculous. I feel like if I were to go back, I would look at that and say, okay, 4 months. Expectation is everything. Depending on how injured you actually are, it makes a difference. So if you have bad knees or bad joints or whatever it is, the only thing you can do is expect nothing. Can't expect anything. If you're hurt, you just have to take some time off. You just have to rest and let your body recover. I also work a lot with acupuncture, sports massage, and foam rolling. Lacrosse balls on your back against the wall. You find me doing that a lot. But mostly rest, a lot of water, and good food. I do have a podcast. It is called Fit in Busy. It's such a cheesy name that you'll remember it. And it's cheesy because it's true. I feel that we are in this world. Everybody is moving so fast. Everyone has 5 jobs. We're all just trying to make ends meet. And life gets busy, and then you forget the little things that keep you whole, like eating good food and drinking enough water and making sure that your fitness, whatever that means to you, is happening. So on the podcast, we talk a lot about, I give a lot of tips. I'll talk about 5 points, how to recover from Super Bowl. I think that was one of our favorites. How to incorporate self-care. And I speak with some of the people that are in my community. I'll interview people like chiropractors and acupuncturists and maybe even some nutritionists or life coaches that kind of help you see that, one, you're not alone, that people fall off the wagon and it's not just you. We can pretend like we eat kale and, do this all day long, but it's not true. Like, you got to live in the real world a little bit. So we talk about how to live a real life and stay in perspective, recoup, move, change, build a better life, because a healthy life doesn't happen overnight. You've been living the same way for years and years. You can't just expect to wake up one day and say, I'm eating kale forever. Probably not going to happen, and then you're going to buy donuts. So if you take it a little bit at a time, and that's what the podcast is about, little pieces that help you build an entire healthy universe for yourself. So check it out. So what's creating curiosity for me in the universe right now is how to keep people motivated, how to bring people back in my studio per se. It's not that we don't have attendance, but I find that people go through waves. You get really excited about something, or you take a challenge for 30 days, and then the second the challenge ends, you're like, peace. Wait a minute. We just had these conversations about how you wanted to live a better life and take care of yourself. And the second that something got a little hard, you chose the donut. That's okay, but consistency is the key. I think what's curious to me is how to not burnout, but push enough where you want more. And I think that takes a little bit of mystery, change, growth. What keeps me coming back is change, things that are constantly changing. And I feel like I have ADD a lot of times where I can't pay attention to one thing for too long because what's over there, you know? But what keeps people healthy is consistent practice, whatever that means. And helping people find that constant thing in their life. I want it to be fitness. Again, whatever that means to you. But sometimes laziness likes to pop up a little bit. Until you get to a certain point where if you don't work out, you feel like you haven't completed your day, which takes a while. It's difficult to show that to people because I can't be in somebody else's body. But I really try to figure out what is it that motivates, what is it that keeps people wanting to go back, especially when you've had a really bad day at work, when your kids are screaming and they want whatever, when life gets hard. How do you go back to something when life gets hard? I think the world would be a better place if everybody knew how to work out. Just kidding. There is something to be said about being aware of your body in whatever form. You can go through life as fast as you want. You can make all the money in the world, and you can have a family. You can have it all. But at the end of the day, if you feel like crap, if you can't pick up your kids, if you can't walk down the stairs, what's it good for? What does it matter? If you have all the money in the world and you can't spend it on fun things, even travel, even like all these things I feel are missing sometimes because we are in this culture, we are so stuck in let's make all the money and let's do this and let's do that. Part of me doesn't want it all. Part of me, I still have to pay the bills. But a big part of me wishes that people took a second to figure out where their legs are. What's a squat? What does it mean to be able to stand up without having to hold on to something? That's strength. That's being aware of who you are. And I feel that if people spent some time, maybe even half the amount of time, figuring out who they are mentally, physically, emotionally, half the time that they do in figuring out how to make money, we would have a happier place. People would be nicer. People would love on each other more. They would give hugs. They wouldn't, honk at each other or something. I don't know. But when you have a really bad day, you're a lot more likely to snap at somebody or just be an irritable person. So be the best version of you is my motto. And I feel that if you are the best version of you to yourself, kind of like if you can love yourself, you can love other people. If you are the best version of you to yourself, you are proud, you are confident, and you take on the world in a different way, in a better way. So that's what I think would change the world. How does being in my body allow me to be who I am? I come from not a bad childhood, but a darker childhood. And I mean that in a sense of chaos. I come from chaos. Whether I created it or my parents created it, doesn't matter. Blame goes all the way back. You can keep pointing fingers until the sun comes up. But being who I am and being aware of how I react, how I make people feel, how I present myself, helps me connect with people. And connection to me is the most important thing. Because if I can't connect, I feel like I'm out of place. I'm out of place in the universe. And it's what gives me a sense of self as well, because I know who I am. based off of the fact that I can connect with people. If I didn't know who I was, if it was all a question, if I didn't have confidence, if I didn't know that I was good at something, or not that you need to be to connect, but if I didn't have that, I think it would be harder for me to connect with people just because of my personality and where I came from, which was a lot of questions and a lot of insecurities. So I feel like I focused myself on something, and instead of focusing on all the negative in my life, I chose to see the positive and all the things that I can do and just share and connect on positivity with other people. That gives me growth and strength and inspiration to learn more from everyone around me. So I feel like that's what makes me who I am.